the November 16 meeting of the Westwood Recreation Commission, and it is being recorded with our permission by Westwood Media Center, and it will be available on their website for playback after the meeting. So call the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. The first agenda item is public comment, but I don't see any members of the public here. So we'll just skip to the consent agenda. And does anyone have anything that they want to remove from the consent agenda, or anything that they want to add to the consent agenda? Okay, so hearing nothing, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
I make the motion to approve.
Bob makes a motion. And Paul, do you second? Did you say?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, the motion is approved. So the first item on the consent agenda is the approval of the minutes from October 19th. And the minutes appear on page, I think this is page 2 of your agenda. So does anyone have any questions or concerns or comments about the agenda? I mean, about the minutes from last time?
Yes, I do, Ann.
I think
Is
you're
that me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just have a question about R3, Paul Tusseri objecting to a skating facility. So I'm not objecting to the skating facility. I'm objecting to the cost of sharing of the cost. I'm objecting to the cost, not to the fact of having a skating facility. So I'd like to have that changed in the minutes. I don't want 500 hockey parents calling me at the house.
So how do we, what's the process for doing that? Do we just amend these minutes and repost them?
Well, this says draft, Ann. On the top of it says draft minutes. And so after we approve the minutes, they become
Oh,
permanent.
it's draft. Okay. All right. So, and I do recall that being the conversation as well, that it was the sharing of the cost, which we did change in the master plan.
So I'm good. Oh my gosh, there's an echo. Jesus Christ. Am I changing it to say that Paul is objecting to the sharing of the cost?
Yeah, I think if you cross out a skating facility and, would that do it, Paul? Paul is objecting to any cost sharing of, we need to add of an or ice facility.
I guess I'm, this is more of, do we add in the minutes of how each person votes, or just basically voted to approve yes or no? And everybody would probably know by looking at this document that I would be a no. But and I just want to make it clear that I'm not against the skating facility. I'm against the proposed costs and how it's going to be funded. So that was paid. There's not much of a difference there, but there is a difference.
So Sheila, I will make that adjustment on my end since I have the current draft. You don't need to do anything on that. Okay. All right. And
thank you.
I'll recirculate it for the next time.
Perfect.
All
Welcome,
right,
Elizabeth.
Oh, hi, Elizabeth. We can't see you yet, but so I guess then if we have changes to make to the minutes, do we hold them over for approval to the next meeting, or do we approve them subject to the change?
Subject to the change is what I recall.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments on the minutes from last week? Last month?
Should I take everyone's name out of when we do that? Just take everyone's name out and just say 3, 4, 1 against. in the
Yeah,
future?
I don't think we need to identify who votes and who.
Perfect.
Just
Yep.
the total. 5
Good.
to whatever, 3 to 4, 4 to 3, whatever.
Okay.
Okay, so we can move forward with approving the minutes that will be amended. Do I have a motion to approve? Mitch, thanks. And then second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Paul, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the next item is the monthly report for October. And is that you, Rich?
Yeah, so I'll take you through a couple of things here. If there's others that I don't touch on that you'd like to talk about, happy to do so.
And that's on page 4 of the
Page
document.
4, that's right. From in the first section about staffing, there's a few things that I want to point out. We had a meeting with a bunch of different folks, departments within the town to assess occupancy within the recreation office and assessing the safety of it, given the tight quarters in there, given COVID and what have you. So what we've decided is that we're not going to have any more than 4 people in the office at any one given time. And we are in the process of setting up 2 temporary workstations in the pool lobby so that we can have all the staff at work, but spread out safely enough due to COVID. So all of the work, all of the electrical work and internet work has been done. We're in the process of procuring workstations on wheels so we can move the computers in and out because we don't want to leave them in the pool lobby because it's kind of and hopefully within the next week or 2 or whatever, however long it takes to get those workstations, will be spread out a little bit more safely. So so that's one thing that we're working on.
Hey, Rich, can you say how this got initiated again? Who initiated this? You mentioned other departments or other people.
So it was just it was discussions that we've been having about sort of re-entry into the workforce, because everything was closed and whatnot. So within the department heads meetings that I attend, there were these discussions, and you may have seen a few, like a month or maybe 6 weeks ago, we had one of our staff members who was ill and got tested for COVID, and turns out that it was negative, but still it got us talking about the occupancy and the safety of it. So I brought this to Joan in HR, and we assembled a team of all the appropriate folks, somebody from DPW, somebody from fire, somebody from IT, Board of Health. We all came and did an assessment based on current guidelines, and so I was the one who sort of asked the question, but it was multiple people who had input.
Okay, thank you for that background information.
Yeah. So one other thing, and I think I mentioned this in the last meeting, we did have a resignation in the pool. Our assistant aquatics manager resigned. We're in the process of assessing candidates right now for replacement. We'll be moving on to round 2 this week of interviews. So hopefully I'll have another update for you with more progress next meeting. And then also from the aquatics perspective, if anybody is familiar with how we're running the pool, we used to have open lap swim where you could just come in and get a lane and swim. We're not doing that anymore. We're doing it by reservation, and we have people check in, they give a health screen, and it requires extra staff to do that. We also have someone going through the locker rooms and all the high touch areas with disinfectant wipes throughout the day and keeping the place wiped down and clean. Of course, it's cleaned every night. It's disinfected every day with that, you know, those mister disinfectants that have become popular. And that's on a daily basis, but we're doing it throughout the day. And the individuals that were doing that are our lifeguards. And it's a little bit more of an expensive hire to do that type of work. So we've created a what we're calling a deckhand to help us do that type of work. It's little bit younger staff, a little bit less experience, obviously not certified as lifeguards necessarily. So to help us with some of that work. So that's a new position that we created, and we actually just this week have 2 people that were onboarded by HR and will be starting soon. So that's going to provide a lot of relief for the staff, the aquatic staff, especially with the assistant aquatics manager position currently being open. All right. So those were three key things that I wanted to point out. And then I'll also just quickly point out, I know last time I mentioned to you that we were going to do a Halloween event for pumpkin carving, and that went off. I don't know if you got a chance to see the video that Westwood Media put out for us, but I thought it came out great. The day went awesome, despite the fact that we had a blizzard the day before.
Mhm.
It was looking very bleak, actually. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe this was going on that way. But thanks to DPW, they did a great job clearing the grounds. And, you know, it turned out to be a perfect day. It was cold, but it was not uncomfortable. And everybody had a lot of fun. We had probably close to 200 people there throughout the day, and it just turned out to be a great day for the community. It was kind of a nice thing to be able to do, especially in these, you know, in this environment with COVID, and there's so few options like this that we're able to do something like that for the town. I think it was very much appreciated, and I can tell you, universally, everyone that attended was very thankful and thought that it was a great event.
Hey, Rich, can we go back to the pool for a minute? Has any thought been given to why we're keeping the pool open? I understand we've got some other towns using the pool, you know, at night or late afternoon. But I saw the revenues from the pool in the financials you sent us out, and it almost seems like, you know, it's a real burden on the financials to be keeping it open under these conditions. Are you getting direction from anybody about the pool, or anybody concerned about the pool?
Well, no, I think, Bob, what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide as much recreation opportunity as we can to the community. And I think my personal feeling is that turning the pool or not opening the pool during this time would be a mistake. I think that, you know, it's an asset that the town has that if we can safely provide for its use, we should.
Yeah, I think
I'm not getting any specific direction from anybody saying we should open it, we should close it. We're opening it because we can.
Yeah, the reason I say that is because it's not just the financial end of it. It is the risk associated with an indoor facility like that. And when I've looked in there a couple of times from the lobby, it doesn't seem like there's many people in there at all. Like a couple of people at a time.
Well, we have 6 people, 1 in each lane at any one given time, Bob, during the lap swim. That's how it's set up, and I wouldn't say that each time is 100% utilized, but I'd be happy to do this. I don't know what the number is, but it's at least 80, probably more than 90% utilized.
Maybe it's you know, people might sign up for an hour, but they swim for 40 minutes and then go
That
home.
does happen, Ann. Yep,
Yeah.
some of that happens. Yep.
As long as we can do it safely, Rich, we should have a service for the town. Let the programs
Right.
exist as long as there's no spread and you're doing it safely, which just sounds great. I may even avail myself of going up there.
I
as
recommend
well.
it, Mitch.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And that's been our attitude. It's until we're told we can't, or until we can't do it safely, we're running the pool. That's been our,
And I'm
that's been our,
assuming there
So you-
hasn't been
So
any
you
transmission.
feel we're doing it safely, Rich?
yes.
Do you feel that there's no risk involved with that pool?
I can never say there's no risk, Bob. Obviously, that's an absolute, and I don't deal in absolutes, but I think that it's being done very, very safely. Sue is remarkably diligent about maintaining, all of the social distancing. The occupancy is, the lanes are 7 feet wide, so there's no one's ever closer than 6 feet apart.
So how many
and-
people do we allow in the locker room at a time? Or is
Um,
that unlimited?
Well, just literally like one or two. The way the flow works, we don't say, okay, at 7 o'clock, 6 people can come. They're spread out like every 5 or 10 minutes so that everybody arrives at a different time and everybody leaves at a different time.
That's smart.
So it's spread. It's remarkably well thought through. And if you'd like, I'm happy to have Sue come to the next meeting and talk in as much detail as you'd like to hear about all of the things that she does to maintain safety.
Yeah, we'll be here all night.
Well, and
But it's amazing to me is now we have, you call them deckhands
that's right.
at the pool, but we don't have like a COVID officer making sure the town is safe. You notice a lot of towns, and I guess I'm getting off on a tangent, a lot of towns now have put COVID officers in to go around and make sure everything is, safe. But we don't have a plan like that.
We haven't seen any transmissions from the pool yet. And the CDC, has said that swimming is, in the pool is okay with distancing. So it's something that we can continue to offer to the town.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just asking if there's been any thought and what, it's just a discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Okay.
maybe we revisit it if we see things start to go the wrong, well, of course we would revisit it if things start to go.
Well, the reason I mentioned that is because Rich said we had a staff member that got sick. Was that
The
staff?
pool was shut down.
Rich, I don't know if you can answer this question. Was that staff member that got sick a pool person?
Bob, I don't want to answer that because I don't want to risk identifying who it was.
Okay.
But what I will say is that the individual tested negative, okay?
Right.
And the individual was tested twice and both times was tested negative. Okay.
Thank you.
So, and that was, out of an abundance of caution, we closed the pool for, I don't remember how many days. It was a week anyway. And in retrospect, we probably didn't even need to do that. We did so because we wanted to make sure that, as we thought through this, it was sort of the first time we had to deal with something like that. We were trying to be very cautious.
Yeah, and I would imagine, when I heard that, I was thinking, well, the pool staff, even if it wasn't a pool staff person, would come in contact with the rest of the recreation staff, so could potentially have been exposed. And you don't want to operate a pool with staff that you're not sure. That's how I took it. Yeah. I could be reading too much, but it did not surprise me that the pool was closed if the staff had to quarantine. You want to just be careful.
Yep. So, and again, sort of bringing it full circle, that got us, that sort of led to the discussion about, office occupancy and what is the safe level of people in the office, and spreading out so that, should somebody become ill, that it doesn't have to take out the whole office. Okay. So, so that's all that. There's a couple other things on here that I'll talk about later, but that's it. The highlights of the monthly report from my perspective for October, unless anybody has any questions.
I was just noticing that there, you ran other programs at the pool as well. In addition to lap swing, you had the conditioning and the triathlon and a few other programs as well.
That's right. We've had several successful programs being run at the pool. The condition swim was remarkably popular. Insofar as we now are running what's called Condition Swim Plus, which is, we can't do swim team this year. So this is sort of like an intramural version of swim team where they swim a couple times a week for practice and conditioning, and then Sue pulls out the timers and lets them swim against the clock. So it's simulated swim team on an intramural basis, and there's just no travel for the swim teams and like there was in years past. And last year we had probably around 250 folks participate on the swim team in the winter, and this year it was looking like, because of limitations to how many people we can have in the pool at any one given time, it was looking like we were only going to be able to service, half that many. And Sue and I sat down and we started playing with the numbers, and I came up with a suggestion on how to reallocate the time so that we're now going to be able to fit everybody that did this year's condition swim. So over 180 residents will be able to participate, all the residents that did condition swim, and we'll even be able to accommodate folks from out of town. So yeah, Sue and I worked pretty hard to find a way to manage it so that we can include everybody and not have to worry about people getting on wait lists and whatnot. So
with only 6 people in the pool at a time, you're going to be able to accommodate that many people?
No, so I don't know how many she has at any one given time. I'd have to check my notes, and I can report back next time. It's more than 6, though.
It's more than 6.
Yeah,
So they're swimming by each other.
that's right. I think she has 2 or 3 people in a lane.
Oh, okay. So
So
how,
that's
what
12
happens,
people.
what happens when the set stops? How is she managing when set stops?
Yeah, I don't know the
Then
answer.
you're all at the end together.
Maybe we
I
do
don't-
want to have Sue come to this meeting. and-
Yeah, I'm happy to
Tell
bring
us
her,
how it
and she can talk through all the specific details, but
Yeah, because I would like, the more people you see swimming, I mean, I'm not I can swim, I have swum, but
So
you're
you've got,
breathing or your mouth's in the same water.
and I
I know
wanna
there's
say,
other chemicals.
I was down there the other night taking pictures of I don't know, I'm going to say the 6 to 8 year olds, and I think she had 12 people in there.
Mhm.
she had 12 people in there.
That's right.
And how many, and there's,
I didn't count, Elizabeth. Approximately 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
so
approximately.
6 lanes, 2 people per lane. It's just when the set ends,
Yeah.
like when they're in the pool swimming back and forth, it's not a big deal. But when the set ends, then they're both there together at the
Where
end.
They're
they
not though.
standing?
They're
How are
not.
they?
That's
One
managed.
end, each at
One
each
end,
end.
okay.
No,
That's how-
it is managed so that they're not together.
Okay.
It is
So they're
managed.
starting the
If
set.
anyone can do it, I would think Sue could.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can tell you there's no one more
Mhm.
diligent than her about stuff.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I believe you on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well-
I'm saying that as a compliment. She is remarkably diligent about it.
Well, what do folks think? Do you want to have her talk to us at the next meeting? Does anyone feel like they're concerned, or do we just let it go? There haven't been any incidents, and
I'd let it go. There hasn't been any incidents, I don't think.
Yeah, I feel confident.
I feel confident.
Susan's doing a great
Okay.
job, so let's-
Yeah.
that sounds
tie
good.
her up after work.
I'm sorry, Paul, I didn't catch that.
I said I just didn't want to have to tie her up after work, so.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. She's so busy as it is, yeah.
Yeah, she's working right now.
All right, so anyone else have any comments on the monthly report, or should we move on? I know I'm the one with that comment. Commission member reports, field policy. I didn't know who you were thinking was,
So, Ann, I think that someone in the minutes, someone had requested that we put this on the agenda next time. So I did.
So here we go.
oh, I
This
see,
is
yep,
Paul.
yep.
If you turn to page 3, Elizabeth suggests signage is needed on fields. Next agenda. So I'm not sure if it's fields policy or signage. Liz, do you remember what that was about?
The signage for me is all about the tennis courts. 'Cause it's not-
Okay.
Yeah, and because there's no signage at Downey tennis courts, none. And then the signage, I had put some signage together for the high school tennis courts.
And I'm requesting signage on Pheasant Hill and any other field space that we're using.
Okay.
So do we want a subgroup to work out what should be on those signs?
I had
So
sent
I have-
information back in the summertime for tennis stuff, but
Yeah, I
Um,
have that. I have the tennis stuff. I have one question that I wanted to address on the suggestions you made, and I wanted to make sure I understood it correctly, Elizabeth. On the sign that you, I believe you put something to the effect of that the courts were for residents of Westwood only.
I think so. So
And-
I'd have to go back to the
Can you
signs.
change it to priority as for was
Yes, priority would be fine.
So that was one thing that I just noticed. I know that, and again, whatever you guys want to vote on with regard to that, that's something that I thought would need a full discussion if we wanted to put it as residents only. And so,
Elizabeth, how would that be enforced if there's two people playing in the courts and there's four people waiting and
Yeah, it's not easy.
And
Is it
two on
someone-
board
and
and
two
normally,
on
so the couple beforehand are first in line, and then say you and a friend come, and the other two are not in Westwood. How do you say to that the couple, hey, where are you from?
Yeah,
You're not playing. I get to play.
yeah. And I just think it just discourages people. I mean, it's just sort of, I
I
don't
mean
know.
that's fine. I just think enforcement is the
Yeah,
tricky
I
part.
don't think you could, like, we shouldn't be walking around trying to figure out who's from Westwood and who's not, and,
No,
Take the
definitely
conflict.
not.
yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that.
I mean, I think of when I go to the Cape in the summer, and if I want to go play tennis, I go to the community courts, and I'm not a resident of Harwich, or, whatever.
Right.
I still play on the courts, or Dennis, or wherever I happen to be.
And the fields are, they don't have any kind of signage like that about Westwood residents only, any of the high
No.
school.
no.
Especially Flay Hive, that would be the one that only has signage, I think.
Yeah, Flayhab has like the no chewing gum, no sports drinks,
Yeah.
no
Yeah,
no
no
sugary
dog.
stuff.
Animal.
No
No
pets.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything else is like that on the other ones.
So it feels to me like we should have a group, for signage, and like with the Pheasant Hill, Sheila, with the people using it unpermitted, and, there should be, I know the discussion we had with the fields policy took a lot more time than I think we initially would have thought it would have taken. I feel like this would as well.
Yeah, you could put a sign up on the tennis courts, just say, Westwood residents have priority.
Yeah.
That's all. It might be discouraging. I mean, other towns have signs at their fields, restricting the use of the fields. I could think Medfield has signs. Needham has signs.
How about for next meeting, we have pictures of what the other towns have, just so we could if it's there, then we should just put it on our fields.
Well,
Comparison is good. Comparison's always good.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll volunteer to take a look at Needham signs because I'm there every so often, so I can check
Okay.
out the high school, the Newman Junior High School, and the Paula Junior High School. I can check out those three schools.
I could do Medfield.
Katomet is Katomet. There's signs at the baseball field in Katomet.
Okay.
So do we want to get a small group together and bring it back to a commission meeting? Or do we want to talk about this at the next commission meeting once we have pictures of signs and then
I
decide?
think just talk as a group once we have pictures.
Okay.
Unless, do you want a small committee first?
I was just thinking it would take more time than we would have in a meeting to allot to it, but maybe we put it on the agenda for next time. We see if it's running on, I cut it off and say, Sheila, Elizabeth, and one other person, whoever wants to do it could be on it.
Okay.
Or,
Sheila, did you find out who that group was at your
They
field?
never came back, which is funny. They haven't seen them since.
Maybe
I
they were
did
one of
ask
the people that
I
listened.
did ask some questions.
Do you think they
Scared
listened
them
to
away,
I asked-
Sheila.
I've told
I
Sheila,
had
call
down
me when
to
you
3
see him,
groups.
I'll run down, and she hasn't called me.
I haven't
So,
seen them, so I'm
It
sorry.
it wasn't a little league, but they were playing baseball, right?
Yeah.
So there's no reason they would go there as a baseball team unless they were trying to hide.
Well, the only thing, I mean, when we left, it snowed. Then it's
Right.
cold, so there's no one
Yeah.
out for the most part, other than, last week the weather was nice, but I don't think there was pickup games. I think everyone would just enjoy the warm weather.
Maybe this weekend, it's gonna be in the 50s, you'll see.
Maybe.
But they were playing baseball, right, Sheila?
Yeah, yeah.
So we have some AAU baseball teams in town now. We have are people affiliated with programs. It's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of like people aren't happy with the instruction, and they want to bring people in to do it. And if they go on a visible field, they got to pay. So that's a hiding spot. So I asked a couple of people if they were using it, and I didn't find out who was using it because it raised my curiosity as to. I mean, it's not a great baseball field.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
the field is on a slant. There's no backstop. There's no bases. There's nothing there. Just grass.
Yeah, it's a field we don't even reserve. It's not even on the list, you know what I mean?
No, I know.
Yeah.
But people, so somebody going there with, with Range Rovers, et cetera, they were trying to hide. And so I think the baseball and the AAU, we've had it in soccer for a while. People want better instruction for their children. That volunteers, parents volunteering doesn't necessarily. God bless them for volunteering. I volunteered for years. I volunteered for football, baseball. I helped coach one year. Timmy, I didn't have a child on the team. Do you remember that, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Okay, so but we had pretty good coaching then. The coaching wasn't bad, but in baseball as well. And when I look at the high school girls and boys soccer teams, their records this year, thank God for those schools with under 500 enrollment that we played, because I don't know what's going on. Maybe Paul, you can enlighten me. What's going on with soccer?
Is this really relevant to the?
Yeah, I don't think we want this
isn't the
on
place.
on a
Yeah,
meeting.
we don't want
like
this on the record.
Why
Meeting's
we
being
have-
recorded and.
Okay, let's go.
Move
Let's
on.
move on then.
So I just want to go back to the tennis court rules. So this is what the wording is. It says courts are for tennis only, and I say for Westwood residents and their guests. So we could swap it out for saying courts are for tennis only and priority for Westwood residents and their guests.
I like that.
I like it too.
So one of the things, Elizabeth, that I was thinking is because of the list that you provided, with the exception of that one, it's very similar to what's already on the courts at the high school. But as I was looking at the signs, there's a lot. It's a very busy sign. There's a lot, and nobody's going to stop and read that, right? So what I was thinking about was maybe making several signs rather than one that just said, for instance, like I know that you have an issue because people are skateboarding on the courts, right? So no skateboarding or whatever. So
Right now that is already on the signage.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this, I think the signage, if we have multiple signs everywhere with different instructions, is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I as an idea, so that it's one thing rather than 10 on one sign. Because if you look at the sign, it's very similar to what the suggestions you made.
Mhm.
But as you look at it, you'd have to sit there and spend 5 minutes reading it to understand all the rules, right?
So when I go to the Fly High field, I think it's a laundry list of items.
I'm talking about at the tennis courts.
Right, but I'm just saying, like,
For
field
comparison.
signage in general. I
Yep.
think it's just a list of things that you say, you can't do this, you can't do
Right.
that. So I think it would just be sort of similar to Flay Hive.
Yeah.
And I think one sign is probably appropriate. I'm
Okay.
not familiar of signs at other tennis courts where instructions are sort of on different signs. I've never
Okay.
seen that
Yeah,
actually.
I agree. It should be on one sign, just,
Otherwise,
fine.
people just say,
Sign
well,
and add
here's
the-
the sign. I didn't see it. I agree too. Yeah.
W-
well, there is more than one sign there anyway, right?
Well, there's one on each door,
Right. there's
Okay.
one
Should
on
say
each
the same
door.
thing on each
and
door.
they're identical. And the for the most part, the wording isn't identical, but for the wording is very similar to the suggestions you
Yeah.
made, Elizabeth, with the exception of the residence one. That
Yeah.
was the only one that is different. So we would just have to add that one. essentially.
And then contact Westwood Recreation. I'm not sure if that's on it, on the bottom for court reservations and group and private tennis lessons. I think that's an addition too.
Is that on there, the private lessons?
Yeah, I put that on. So,
Okay.
just, it says,
Put that on this year?
that's the suggestion that I've made. Contact Westwood Recreation for
Okay, great.
private
I don't
tennis
know.
lessons and court reservations. Yes.
I would say the usage on those 6 courts is about 50-50. 50% residents, 50% non-residents,
Maybe
based on,
what you saw this summer. Yeah.
that's my best guess.
Yeah.
Because there's people there that are not residents, for sure.
Okay. So I just
All right,
wanted to bring
so-
that up as, I don't want to delay, hang on to this.
Thank you.
Move on.
So we think
So-
we have a recommendation for tennis, just the addition for the sign, and then we'll bring some Needham and Medfield examples for other field signage to the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And I just have a quick question before we get off of fields. So I'm looking at the schedule and seeing that there's a lot. Rich, you seem to have a lot of people, a lot of teams, and we're still doing field rental. I see Bay State Flag, Seacoast, Babe Ruth, Wolfpack, Morrison. Rich, what is the recreation department doing as far as making sure and ensuring that they are adhering to, are they signing a document saying they're adhering to CDC guidelines or
Yeah.
statements from the
Yeah.
state?
Yeah, we, as part of the permit process, we provide them the guidance and indicate that they must adhere to that guidance.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
So next item is director staff reports, and I see 3 items listed in there, the capital projects and the summer stats and the pool HVAC.
Yeah. Right. So last year in this November meeting, we reviewed the capital improvement items, which are pages 5 through 11 in your packet.
This is where I want a printed package.
Well, yeah.
Print it out.
So these are
Someone could share their screen if they wanted to. Would that be appropriate?
I have it on a separate screen, but it's sideways on the screen. That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
One of the pages is sideways.
right. So these are.
You need
this
2
is-
computers in.
What?
You need 2 computers.
I can't see people when I'm sharing and looking at so I just brought my work laptop in today so I could have it on 2 computers. Yeah.
I can share my screen if you'd like me to.
That'd be great.
Let me give it a shot here.
It just, everyone got too
Host-
small and
host
I'm trying to see
disabled
people
participant.
talking and
So
You should be able to now.
But the old fashioned way. Use
try it
paper.
again.
I should have printed
Give it
it,
one more
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Because
Here
now
we go.
you're not going like this to read it.
Where the heck are we?
And I can probably.
I'm just
flip
gonna do
it,
my
but I don't
screen.
know.
There you go. Your screen sharing. We
There's
see
my
everything.
screen. Yeah, let me just
No,
close a couple of these things out here. Let me pull this one up.
Oh, actually, yeah, everyone's small when you're sharing too, obviously.
Here we are. Okay, let me get rid of that, move
Good
that out of
job.
the way. And we'll do this.
Good job.
And what page are we going to?
11.
Do we-
Five.
See, I
Yeah,
can't,
that's the page.
Sideways,
there.
yeah.
yeah, I can't rotate this. I'm not, wait a minute.
That's what I'm
No,
going.
it's not letting me.
Yeah, it's a PDF.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, nice. Thank you for trying.
All right, so how do I stop
You
sharing?
just stop sharing. You
Okay,
got-
great.
you got it.
So it's the pool deck resurfacing.
Right, so there were three items that these are all left over from last year. The pool deck resurfacing and the drainage and refurbishment were supposed to have been this fiscal year, but they were combined with the Thurston Field Light project, and that whole package got removed because I guess the FinCom did not get behind the Field Light project. So those were carried forward to this year. Again, they're identical to what you saw last year. There's nothing new. And the third item for this next fiscal year that we're putting in for is for storage. You may recall the ICC is closing and a lot of our storage is at the ICC. We need to be out of there by December 18th. We have, just as a temporary measure, we have a container coming so that we can move our stuff in. And but a longer term solution would be nice to have something along the lines of a garage bay down behind the high school. So that's what this item is. Again, it's something that was on there last year. So it's the same exact thing.
Rich, would that garage be like the garage that the DPW and the high school shares, that kind of a garage?
That's correct, Bob.
And so then I see you've got projects like the Sheehan courts. I think I had heard, did you report earlier that they were postponed another year?
The pickleball courts.
Yeah, or whatever we do with Sheehan. yeah.
Right. So there's really, they don't want to go ahead with that project until the elementary school projects are definitive and done.
Right, I did.
Right. And the concern being, yeah, I'm sure you all recall the tennis court that was removed on Morrison Park because of the fire station project. And they don't want that same thing to happen, to spend all that money on pickleball court.
True.
There's a lot of interest for pickleball, and it's a project that I definitely think is worth pursuing in the long run. We just need to find the right spot for it. And if it's final that Sheehan is not going to be the project, which I think it's pretty close, and they're not going to do anything with Sheehan, it would be nice to put those in there. It's just a matter of timing, right? And so we don't wind up spending all that money and then have to tear them up because it conflicts with the school location project.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in learning pickleball. It's supposed to be a lot of fun, Paul. I know you play.
It's a lot of fun. It
Yeah.
really is. Yeah.
You're gonna have to run a class for us, Paul.
I'm not, I said it was fun. I didn't say it was good.
You can try it out on us first,
There you go.
and then
Good for all you
Yeah.
old.
I have a basketball
Yeah.
court in the backyard. We can
So-
set up the net, have it, that can be our pickleball court. And we'll
Yeah, so if everybody plays left-handed, I will make sure I will teach everybody how to play.
have-
Some of the courts at Wimbledon have, the tennis courts, they are lined for pickleball. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something that you could do at Downey. Those two courts would be a great spot to line for pickleball.
So there's
Yeah.
one resident, and this was a couple meetings ago, we talked about where he wanted to convert some of the courts to pickleball. I've talked to him some more, and one of the things that he was saying was exactly that, Elizabeth. Could we line
Yeah.
the court for that? Now, from what I understand from talking to him, the pickleball courts and the tennis, the pickleball nets and the tennis nets are different heights.
They are. So you'd have to, I don't know exactly how they do it at Wimbledon, but they do have nets they take out the net, the regular net, and then put in they're the same width. It's the height that's different.
Right.
So they're retractable nets. That's why I think the Downey would be the perfect place for them. There's just two courts there. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of action. It would be easy, to get in and out, to, get those nets in, to have retractable nets. That's what I'm going to call them because I don't know the right
Yeah.
terminology, to be able to do that and then line those courts. They're nice and flat, they're not on an angle. They're like the Sheehan court. It's like that Sheehan court, nice and flat.
Yep. So one of the things that he was going to do, this gentleman that I've been speaking to, was apparently you can get nets that are temporary. So
Yeah.
and he was going to go to Downey and see if, rather than run the nets or line the actual tennis courts, do it from one side of the net to the fencing and see if you could, if there was enough room so that you could line it and then put the temporary nets there.
There's not a lot of room from the end of the court, like
Right.
the
It's about
service
10
line
feet,
to the
I
net.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
pretty narrow. It's
Yep.
pretty narrow. I mean, I've been down there a couple times, and the pickleball, I mean, you should go to Wimbledon and just look at it. I'm sure they'll just let you walk in.
Yeah.
The pickleball court's really not that much shorter than a tennis, regular tennis court. It's
Oh,
probably
yeah. You mean the inline, or you're talking about the width, the length?
the length. The
Hmm.
length. The width is pretty much the same, and the length is not anything much shorter.
It's about
probably
6 to
6
7 feet.
inches. Yes, no, it's probably like maybe a foot and a half from the
Really?
service line. Yeah.
Well, maybe the ones in Naples aren't official,
Yeah.
but they have,
For the older people.
they have a whole recreation area with
Yeah.
8 pickleball courts, and I'll tell you right now,
You can go
they're
down
half the size of a tennis court.
you
That's
can-
an intriguing idea, though.
if you go down to Wimbledon, you can go in. I could definitely have you take a look at them so you get a sense of this. Because there's 2 courts at Wimbledon that are lined for pickleball. And it drives the tennis players crazy. It doesn't, I'm used to it now. I actually like it for different reasons. But they're not that much. I thought it was a lot smaller, but it's really not. It's really not that much smaller.
Liz, I'm looking at the, and I don't want to get into a pickleball discussion here, but it says 44 feet for the pickleball length and 70 something feet for a tennis court. So it is significantly shorter.
Yeah, it's less than half, because, as I
Well-
said, in Naples, they have a whole,
Well, it's 44 feet and tennis is 78. So
yeah, that's what I
in
said.
any event, but I don't want to turn this into a pickleball thing.
Okay,
here,
okay.
but
So,
the other thing is
So this gentleman's going to get back to Rich with what he says.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
That's
we
right.
can also, maybe we should consider exploring the option of just, lining the tennis court with pickleball.
Throwing my 2 cents.
And seeing how much it would cost to get those retractable nets into Downey. And
Yeah, I'll throw my 2 cents. I think if you start replacing nets, you're just going to run into major problems. Who's going to replace it? What's it going to fit? Temporary netting, maybe, but I play tennis as well. And if you try removing those nets and putting another net in there
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
trying to go back, it's going to be.
I agree. And the other thing, Mitch, and that's a great point, because and it's interesting. The tennis nets are, they say it's 3 feet high, whereas pickleball nets are 36 inches high at the ends and 34 inches high in the middle. So, I mean, we can get away with it. I mean, we're not a professional, pickleball court here.
so
We could
keep the same net as what you're thinking. Just
we
line
could
it
just
for-
use the same net, and the pickleball folks will, until they decide, till we get, what is it, readership, till we get membership, readership, whatever you want to call it, that we just let it go with the tennis. If this is a decision to look at that, but we can just leave the tennis nets as they are. I agree with Mitch. We can't. Those
Yeah.
nets are just too much of a pain to move.
Yeah, and I can add to that too, because I've been working on those nets a little bit, and 2 summers ago, we helped replace one of them. They're not light, and that cable that spans it's very heavy and unwieldy to try to move that. And I think that if we get in the habit of taking one down and putting another one up, it'll ultimately lead to somebody just saying that, and it's probably going to be there are going to be a lot of people that are not happy because one gets left up and one doesn't get put back right.
Yeah.
I would say that if it would probably be better to look at a temporary net and leave the tennis court nets alone would be my recommendation.
Yes.
Agreed.
Okay, I don't really know.
So, anyway,
But-
this guy is going to do some work measuring and whatnot, and he's going to get back to me. We agreed it's something that is more something that we can look at over the winter, and we can address it come early spring.
Yeah.
So,
I think the question originally we got on this pickleball was, why do we have that in there as a capital improvement if we're not ready yet?
well, because this is a 5-year plan, Bob, and it's not for this next fiscal year. It's
Okay.
And we were
22,
ready at one
26.
point. We were
Yeah.
ready to bring the Sheehan pickleball, the idea of pickleball on the Sheehan court to town hall at one point, town meeting at one point, but I think, was it in discussions Nicole had with the select board or somewhere it got pushed? And then it got pushed because of the schools. So I feel
That's
like
right.
it has been one of our priorities for a while.
Right.
So if I can just also make a suggestion in this topic, when we see tennis court repurposing, I know what repurposing is, but it just, can we get pickleball somewhere in that description or not? Is that,
Well, it's on Sheehan School. It's not on the 10th.
says Sheehan tennis court repurposing? Am I looking at the
Oh, I
wrong
see
number?
what you're saying. I see. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
Repurposing for pickleball.
yeah, if you look at the detailed report that's behind it, it does say exactly that. Sheehan tennis court repurposing to pickleball. So I can add it in this as well.
And who is the gentleman that is helping you with the pickleball? Is it a town resident?
It is, and his first name is Alex. I don't remember his last name. But yeah.
Mhm.
Great. Thank you.
Now, there's $100,000 in the request for a community recreation center in fiscal year 2023, and then 3 million, if we got that in 2024. Is that 100,000 to kind of come up with proposals for a rec center?
Yes. Exactly.
And
what
do we
it is.
expect to get that approved, or has it already been approved in past years? Is it?
It has not been approved. No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, I think we should ask. Like, that's our
Yeah.
number one goal.
I don't disagree. Yeah, obviously this is something that Nicole had on there, and it was never something that she and I talked about in too much detail because there were too many other things that were current that we were focused on. So, but eventually there needs to be a conversation, and I want to have that conversation with Chris just about this particular subject and what's the likelihood, and if there is any likelihood, and get it to a point where it's that. I think that number of 3 million is just a wild, ballpark. It's not a real number until we get engineers and proposals and whatnot. And but it is definitely something that I think everybody agrees is a nice to have. And to a certain degree, this project is also contingent upon what happens with the elementary schools, because if it turns out that Deerfield is one that it goes away, there's a possibility that we could get a part of Deerfield for that purpose, and then this comes off the list, right? So, so it really depends on. We have a lot of projects that seem to be dependent on what's going on with the elementary school project.
Yeah, I mean, it could come off the list from the standpoint as you've had more programming space, but it's not a community center. Deerfield would never be a community center.
Yeah.
So,
Are we proposing a community center?
community, if you were building a community recreation center from scratch, you would not just do recreation program. You'd make it would be new, and it would have facilities that the community could use. It might have the gym that, the high school had that was supposed to be. It could have a walking track indoors.
Well, I think what Rich said about the Deerfield, understanding the competition for capital money, that wouldn't be a bad alternative. That'd be something. As
Well, yeah,
opposed
as
to
you know,
nothing.
in
We
the
just
master
spent a
plan-
couple of $100,000 on those fields. Nicole spearheaded that. Those fields are pretty nice.
Yes, Deerfield, they're very nice.
Yeah, you're gonna have a
we
lot
should
of,
have any space we can for rec programming.
yeah, we're gonna have a lot of classroom space. The
I
gym is smaller, but I've run programs in the gym.
Yep.
Gym is fine. You
We
probably take that
would
space
need,
out.
let's not, let me interject here. We don't know what's going to happen with a community center, but we need the big picture. I thought indoor track sounds good, but we need another basketball court in town. Maybe I've seen
Yeah,
that.
but that's not the job of recreation. I don't think. We don't build basketball courts.
Indoor
If we can
basketball.
certainly push
So,
for a.
Mitch, let me ask you something.
No, please, let me finish. I
Okay,
think
go
it's
ahead,
very
go ahead.
important. I think it's
Go
very
ahead.
important. And that's why one of the reasons I'm on this committee,
Yeah,
commission, is we need a recreation center. We need somewhere for the kids and for adults to have a place to go other than what we have. We don't have enough basketball facilities in this town. I've been dealing with coaching and dealing with this, my kids in the high school for years, Bob. If we can push it through us, again, this is down the road. We don't know what's going to happen. We might get Deerfield and say, hey, let's expand Deerfield, and
Right.
and that's perfect. They just expand it. We get a recreation basketball court for a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
Easy. So I'm not saying, Bob, let's build a mega mansion here somewhere. Let's see where we're going, but we really do need more
yeah,
space.
I agree with everything you said. We could make, I put some thought into the Deerfield because I used to work for the Deerfield PTO. And on one end of that gym is a stage.
Yeah,
And behind the stage, does anybody know what's behind the stage?
it's the kitchen. It's
The
the
cafeteria.
Yeah.
Cafeteria in the kitchen, you're right. So if you took out the stage, you took out the wall, and moved the basketball nets back, you'd have a pretty good sized basketball court there. And you could
That
run
may-
a lot of programs.
That may be all we need. That may work.
Yeah, so my point was just that if we get the Deerfield, the community center spend doesn't completely go away if we really want a community center, because the Deerfield as it stands now would give us programming, but wouldn't give us the community center that is our number one goal.
Right.
Now, we might never get approved, but we
It's
should.
it's not my number one goal, but it's some people's goal. I mean, I
Well,
think,
leave it on. you.
okay, so in 1990, what was going on with the Deerfield schools? Anybody know?
Yeah, well, it used to be a girls' school.
It wasn't Western Public School back in
It
1990.
was.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it was.
It was, and then because the enrollment was down, we leased it out to the Montessori school.
Right.
Yeah.
the
So
girls'
my kids had to go to the Sheehan.
Right, they broke up, it was like,
They closed the Deerfield.
Right,
And then
but it
when
was
they-
open in 1990.
What?
It was open in 1990, the Deerfield.
Well,
It
maybe
closed until
shortly
maybe the
thereafter.
mid-90s, right?
I'm trying to think of my daughter. Shortly thereafter, it was closed.
yeah,
Because my son,
Sister started working there.
I know, because my kids had to go to the
It was
Deerfield.
93.
Hmm?
I think my sister started working there. Her first job out of college, 93, out of grad school, was at Deerfield. So it was open then.
No.
it definitely reopened in the
It might have
90s.
reopened, it might have, okay, yeah, it might have reopened.
Reopened then. I think it was reopening that year, yeah.
Okay, but the original thing I said was 1990, what was it? And it was
Yeah,
the
so it started
Montessori.
closed then.
Okay, we need to get back on track.
Okay.
So
Exactly.
Thank you, Paul.
anyway, so
Listen.
that $3 million is on there.
Right.
Because it was the recreation department's number one goal, was to get some sort of recreation center.
And then
And-
also offices for the recreation staff.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, because
Exactly.
they are, I mean, look what you're dealing with now with COVID, and that's a
Yeah.
really small space. And I think it is warranted that there's a bit more space for recreation
Right.
staff and programming in general.
So it doesn't seem like the Deerfield as it stands would work long-term to meet all the goals, but it could be a short-term,
Mhm.
get more programming and then hopefully get some capital to make it better.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Expand, knock the building down and build a community center. That may be
Or that, yeah,
down the road.
Yeah.
Who knows?
yeah.
So
Bob, we got to think big.
Right, you don't want to, if you never ask, you're not going to get anything.
That's
Right,
right.
right.
So, and that item on this list is probably more of a placeholder than everything else,
Right, right.
just to identify that is a identified need and desire of the department for that type of facility. And I think that is the primary goal for having it on there right now until things with other projects become a little bit more clear. And then we'll be able to get much clearer numbers and we have a much better definition of what it's going to be, where it's going to be, et cetera.
The only issue I would raise with the 3 million is that's about a third of what, based on everybody's input, and Mitch is talking about a basketball court, a regulation basketball court, and, it would be triple that number.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Bob, but again,
Well,
that's.
that
It would be 3 million,
$100,000
it
will
would be,
tell us.
it would be 9 or 10 million.
Yep.
That kind of square footage.
Okay.
Well, that's what that $100,000 spend is gonna tell us, right? What we can get, how much it will cost.
Yeah,
Right.
we can't build it like a normal builder. We have to pay, prevailing wage rates, and it gets complicated when you're building a town asset, because we try, it's, if you have a project that, it depends. If the town's putting any money into it, it has to be the prevailing prevailing rates. Like, it becomes very expensive.
Okay, so Rich, back to what we're talking about. We're moving on from the community rec center, right?
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what's next?
Well, that's pretty much it for the capital project. I put in here the stats report for the summer. I don't, unless anybody wants to go into detail, I don't want to spend too much time on this tonight, simply because we've talked about it a lot already on a bunch of meetings, because I was keeping pretty close tabs on the finances, given what was going on with the summer programs and all the cancellations and what have you. The good news is, I'll just say as a highlight, is that the profitability was a little bit higher than my back of the napkin calculations that I was doing throughout the summer. But the message is the same. Obviously, we were able to make a little bit of money this summer with reduced programming. Our summer camp ran at about 60% of what it had in the past, but expenses were higher. Of course, most of our sports programs we had to cancel because of the COVID regulations and whatnot. So that's the theme for the summer. Again, I'm happy to go into any detail that you'd like, but I think we've talked about it quite a bit over probably 2 or 3 meetings now. And I was able to, as you know, I do the official stats report about 45 days after season ends. So I get all the invoices so I can make sure we're not missing too many. And this is what I was able to get to it the past week or two. And this is what it looked like. Does anybody have any questions for me on that, or do you think we've covered enough over the past few meetings?
I think we're good. I'm good. I don't want to speak for everybody else.
No, I'm good. I read it all. That's why I brought up the issue of the pool when I
Yeah.
saw the
All
cost versus the revenue.
So the only other thing that I wanted to bring up with you, I wanted to bring you all up to speed on the pool HVAC project that we have going on. I had mentioned to you that they ran into some difficulties with the curb, I don't know, it's a manufactured piece that connects the unit to the roof. Okay, it's like an adapter. And the manufacturer, I believe I told you they made a mistake when they built that thing, and they had engineers come out. They had to remeasure it, fix it. I got certifications from our engineer who we hired to manage the project, as well as the company that this fix was going to be adequate. The good news is the unit is up and running. It's running, and we're able to obtain negative pressure within the pool area with what we want. The problem is that the fix that they put through, which we have literally written assurances from our engineer as well as the company, appears to have affected the ability to achieve negative pressure within the pool area. And the reason why we want negative pressure is you want a slight amount of air being drawn in rather than pushing out of that, so that all the chlorinated air doesn't come out through all the cracks by the doors, the windows, etc. All that chlorinated air is going up through the vents. And so it's a problem. And we had several people there today to come up with a solution as to how they're going to fix it. So it's operating right now. They've been able to use the purge fans to achieve the desired result, but it's not a long-term solution, and they've got to come up with that. And we don't have an answer yet, but they have engineers working on it. So,
So Rich, thank you. That's great. Well, it's not great, but is that design flaw something that Westwood, the town of Westwood, is going to be on the hook for,
No.
or is the
No.
vendor or the
No.
contractor responsible for it?
No.
Can you go over that and explain that to us?
yeah, I mean, no, we're not going to be responsible for it. They are. They have to come up with a solution. I mean, it's that simple.
Okay. And they're aware and all that sort of fun. And
Oh,
legal,
absolutely. We've
and
made it very clear.
legally, we're covered.
Yep.
That's great news. Perfect. Thank you.
So it's unfortunate, you know, what frustrates me is, and I mean, obviously I'm not an engineer, but I do, I almost was an engineer, believe it or not. And when the problem was identified initially back in September, I said to our engineer, I'm concerned about the way that they're proposing to change this thing. And I need assurance that this change in flow of air will not affect performance and it will not affect our warranty. And I have it in writing from both our engineer as well as the company as such. I asked specifically this question, and not that I necessarily should, it's really our engineer's responsibility to make sure that this was designed properly. But, you know, I asked the question because I happen to know a little bit about flow dynamics and whatnot, and I was very concerned about it. And so, you know, they gave us written assurance that the way that it was designed was fine.
So where is Sue in all this? Because she's been at that for
She's
40
involved
years.
with it completely.
What?
She's completely involved with it. She and I are working very
Okay.
closely on this. When they
Okay.
come, they, you know, we are both, as a matter of fact, they were there this morning for 2 hours. We were both with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, other
So
items?
Yeah, that's all I had.
Thank
Anyone
you.
have anything else that they couldn't anticipate before the meeting, 48 hours before? Okay, so our next meeting, December 14th. I have nothing planned on December 14th. I'm available. Sound good to other people?
It's good to me.
Okay,
Great, Bill.
so who wants to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will.
Paul will make it and Mitch second.
Second, sure.
Excellent. All right, well, have a good,
Can we just let's vote, please?
oh, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
I'll shoot, get out the
All right.
door. You can keep me honest, Rich.
Absolutely.
An hour and 12 minutes. Pretty good.